Hey there, Unfiltered episode 3. I'm Philip.
I'm Isaac.
This is the man, Isaac.
You're the man.
Together we are men. Or at least we're trying to be men.
Together we're unfiltered.
Together we are unfiltered. Bring in some time of no fluff zone. That's kind of our mini slogan right there is we don't want to lie to you. We just want to bring wisdom and truth. Specifically, revealing tactics to meet life's demands. That's our tagline right now.
It's good. I love that tagline. Because life is demanding.
It is.
And over the course of time, everyone picks up little tactics, some tips, some strategies, little tidbits of wisdom that help out along the way. So
that's what we're here to dig into and reveal.
Right. That's right.
So today you're getting it from me and him.
Yes, sir.
Guests will come on later. Lindsay's over there. She's chilling. She's running the scenes behind there.
We're grateful for Lindsay.
We are very grateful for Lindsay.
So let's dig in.
Let's dig in.
What do you say?
What do you say? Super Bowl was yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
You like Tom Brady.
You're right.
TB12.
The man. The GOAT.
He is the GOAT. I mean,
undeniable.
Seven Super Bowls.
Yes.
More than any organization at this point. Now, there's a lot of people who would say the game was rigged. Now, we don't necessarily need to go full conspiracy theory, but in your opinion, like it was a game that was played fairly and the best players won.
Yes, that is what I would say. Now, I've got a lot of friends. I've got a lot of relationships with people that are Chiefs fans, or maybe they're just anti-Tom Brady people, and that's okay. Lindsay's like waving her fist in the air. You know, that's okay. Here's the thing about it, okay? Tom wasn't reffing the game, and the fact about it is, I'm not trying to make anybody mad here tonight, but the Patriots won by double digits.
The Buccaneers.
You're right. See, here's the thing. I'm just so on Tom Brady that
You just remember him as the Patriots.
That's all I know, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even care.
31,
I'm not a Bucs fan.
31-9.
I'm not really even a Patriots fan.
Yeah.
I'm just a Tom Brady fan.
You appreciate the man.
I appreciate the drive in the man.
We were talking about that,
Yeah.
right? Because, and now there's some people who don't like Tom Brady or the Patriots because of the dynasty.
Sure.
Right? Versus we tend to be more like underdog people. We enjoy the underdog, rooting
like
for
that.
them.
That's right.
Yeah. We want that 16 seed to knock off the number 1 seed.
Exactly.
Rudy, right?
Rudy.
You're a big Rudy fan?
I mean, enough, yeah. It's up there for me. Just the story of, this guy that didn't have what it takes, so everyone else thought, but he had the heart, and he gave what was necessary to reach his end goal. And I think that's kind of inspiring. And, Tom Brady, like, the fact is the guy was not a top round pick. I think he was like 6th round in the draft, 199th or something like that.
Like third to last. Or is there 7 rounds? I can't remember if there's 6 rounds. Third to last draft pick.
That I couldn't tell you.
We can confirm later.
But he was not a high choice.
No.
And here he is all these years later, 44, 43, 44, something like that.
Yeah.
And he's won more championships than any other football team.
Right.
That is on the record. So, yeah, I think what he's done is shown that the heart to achieve a goal, to achieve an end, is going to take you to places that mere talent alone would not be able to take you. And so I think that that's pretty inspiring. And I appreciate Tom Brady for that reason, not because of who he is as a person, not because of the organizations that he's played for, just because the guy has given what it took to achieve his goals. And I think that's pretty awesome.
It is amazing. It is amazing. And the person he's become along the way. I mean, I don't know if it's admirable or because you had a quote. He was quoted saying, it was something about him giving up his life.
Yeah. Yeah. He said, like in a conversation about other opponents that would come against him, he said, "You'll have to give up your life for this because I've given up mine." I mean, that's his mentality about the game, about football, is this is what I have devoted my whole life to. I'm not saying that that's right. I mean, as a pastor, I would actually say that there's probably some issues like with giving everything to a game that's temporary and probably doesn't carry a lot of eternal repercussions to it. But like, I admire the tenacity to achieve that he has displayed towards this game. And I think, man, like if everybody, I'm not saying everybody should live their life to an extreme of like, I have just totally giving up everything else because that's unbalanced. And, I don't know Tom Brady personally, but if we looked at like the 4 areas of life that we talk about often, health, career and calling, resources and relationships, there are probably some areas in his life that have suffered or maybe have not been able to fully flourish because of the focus on another area.
Right.
Some of his is probably tied up together. Like if I were to, just from a glance, and I don't know him personally, so I don't know what his life looks like, but I would imagine that probably his health and his career and calling are his 2 primary devotions, the 2 areas that he gives the most probably time and emphasis to developing. I imagine, again, don't know him, but it would appear that his resources are probably pretty well figured out at this point as a result of the success he's had in other areas.
Right.
But I will tell you, there's a documentary, like a little docuseries I watched a couple years ago probably. It's called Tom versus Time, and it was like 6 episodes. I don't think they were very long, but it was all about like Tom in the off season and his preparation and just all of the things he does in order to prepare to go out and be a champion on the field. And they actually had his wife, Giselle, on one of the multiple episodes, but on one episode she was talking about the family dynamics, and she said there's like 6 months of the year where I'm pretty much doing all of it. She's like, it's very little time just because of how much time
is being demanded.
Football takes, which to be the guy, the GOAT, I mean, like it's going to take a lot of your time. And, I hope that he finds some time with his kids, maybe in another season of life, and maybe in the off season he gets a lot. I don't know.
Right.
But I imagine there's a period there where there's some other parts of life that suffer neglect, and his whole world probably is just football and his team and the people around him.
And maybe he's thinking he's 42 or 43, and he wants to play till he's 45.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he's got these 2 or 3 years left, and he's willing to sacrifice that right now for the legacy or what those 2 to 3 years will give him.
Sure.
And how that will set him up even more. I mean, he's already set up for life, like financially.
Yeah.
And all of that. I mean, that's done. But then now what he wants to achieve with his career, if he gives up these 2 to 3 years now, what will that give him for his lifetime?
Yeah.
Which in theory, that's a reasonable exchange depending on what you're giving up.
Yeah.
And that's what we really don't know about Tom, is what he's sacrificing relationally, and if things will combust once he doesn't have football and he has to use his time differently.
Yeah.
His relationships will change because his relationship with football changed.
It's true.
And that's like something for us to take into account, is because the same thing will happen to us. Like how many times, and I mean, I get the privilege, and I think you do too, about talking to a wide range of people every day. And there are people who are in that retirement age, and there are some who like retire for a year and they go back to work because they don't know what to do with their time.
Yeah.
Because the relationship with themselves, the relationship with their career or their calling has changed, and so they need something to do because nothing has filled that gap.
Sure.
And so I'm wondering what will happen with Tom.
It's hard to say. Transitions are hard on people, especially something like that where what you've known for so long and been so committed to. Like I can't even
lifetime.
Can't imagine for him what that'll be like, because it has probably been his whole lifetime of football is it.
Right.
And, maybe he'll go the Romo route and start announcing or something like that. But it won't
field.
it won't be the same though as going out and playing and winning championships. I mean, it won't be the same. I actually was listening to a guy on another podcast like this morning when I was getting ready, and it was an athlete who was talking about how he played, high school ball. He went on and played college ball. He was like kind of on the line of where he could have maybe gone and played in some professional leagues or maybe not. And so he was in this transitionary period where he was trying to figure out what he was going to do. And he said that, I didn't know this, but he said a lot of athletes go through like this almost depressed state when their athletic career comes to an end. Like if that's what they've put all their time in. He said collegiate athletes go through this a lot because they get to the point where they're done doing this sport that they've given all their time and energy and focus to and sacrificed, relationships or other things that would have been nice to do along the way to pursue excellence in this sport. And then they get to the end of that and it's like, well, now what? Like this thing that I've been living for, this thing, like if we were to go with Tom's quote, I've given up my life for this thing, and now I can no longer do this thing.
Right.
So it's like now you're in a
Now
place
what?
of almost having to rebuild or refigure out who you are. That would be a tough thing.
Ooh, right.
To live for 20, 30,
Yeah.
45 years
Right.
and try to figure out who you are at that point would be a very difficult thing. If I can just keep going on that for a second, something else that I'm aware of, and I haven't like counseled people through this myself, but it's something that like talking with pastors, I'm aware of, is that for a lot of like working families, like couples, they say that one of the times where relationships undergo the most stress is actually when people retire or when kids leave the home. And they say, like, for some married people, now not all, like if you're giving your relationships proper attention and everything, then maybe there won't be as much of a chance of this. But even if you are, there's like such a change when your kids would leave home or when you are no longer working and you're back at home and now you and your spouse have all this time together. Like I've heard people make the quote before, like our kids have left and that was like the thing that kept us. Like that's what we had in common.
Yep.
Like I don't really have hobbies or interests like outside of kids and work. My spouse, like we don't really know who the other person is because we've just been given everything to our kids and our work life and trying to stay rested and fed so that we can do it the next day. And it's like you get to the end of the 25 years or so that you've got kids in the house. I mean, if you have multiple ones, and then it's like, okay, so who are you now?
Right.
Nice to see you again. You know, it's been 25 years.
Because you either define yourself in the family and the kids, or you have your unique definition of identity.
Sure. Some people do, I think.
Which is what we're kind of out to find, A, for ourselves and B, for others.
Yeah.
Right? Which, revealing tactics to meet life's demands. And there are seasons when life demands more than others.
Yeah.
In unique seasons. And that's when you have to kind of like premeditate how you're going to handle those times.
Right. And I think it shows the importance of keeping them all healthy along the way because, you know, like relationships, for example, like the marriage thing I was talking about, you know, people can go years and not realize like, hey, this relationship with my spouse maybe isn't healthy, but then you get to the end and it's like you don't have the kids to like buffer that difference anymore. And now it's like, okay, so now we have this symptom that has just become apparent to us, but really it's a problem that's been there for a while, that the relational health hasn't been there. We could easily tie that into the health field of I've had this underlying condition for a long time, but didn't really realize I had a problem until this symptom manifested. I'm sure you get that often.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, the intentionality to keep all four areas, all the main areas of life, healthy and growing all the time is important because that's how we're going to prevent, you know, the big symptomatic, problematic moment. It's how we avoid the blowouts, right?
Correct. And that's kind of what we're identifying. Not kind of identifying, that is what we're identifying, is when one area blows up and dominates the others so that an other does not get the attention it needs on a regular basis to perform. And that's what I think we should go into is, you know, what we're doing right now. We're young.
Yeah.
We're learning. There's grace. No one is expected to have this down perfect.
I'm not saying we've got it figured
And
out.
I'm definitely not saying that. No. I think all we're saying is here we have a model of what to focus on a day-to-day basis to help your life be, this is a big concept that we've talked about, be productive instead of consuming.
Right.
Producing instead of consuming on a moment-to-moment, day-to-day basis. Because, boy, I mean, we're in perfect fields, career fields, to see what has consumed other people to the point where now they have symptoms, pain, and other issues, you know? And so,
we see the results.
We do see the results, yes. Yes.
Of ongoing unbalance.
Correct.
Unaddressed issues.
And it's not necessarily anyone's fault. I mean, it depends on what stance you're taking, because Jocko would say, you need to take responsibility no matter what for everything. Even if it is your fault or not, even if you had 1% to do with an outcome that was a massive failure by whatever standards, you need to take responsibility for that. And
well, you know, not that that's the main point we're here to discuss for this podcast, but I do think there is something kind of like almost like a little bit liberating or freeing in taking responsibility for things.
I agree.
Know everybody might not look at it like that, but I think when you make a shift of, there is something I can do about this. Like I'm not just at the mercy of what is going on in the world. I'm not just, a boat with no sails, a ship with no sails being tossed around wherever, the winds take me.
Right.
I think there's something kind of nice about that, from a spiritual sense, because that's, my background and what I am called to. I would say too, there is hope in Christ and in the Word and in God, because I think there are moments, even though Jocko, he would maybe say we can take extreme responsibility for anything. I mean, like, just honestly, there are things that are out of our control. And I think when we come into a relationship with Christ and we recognize the strength and the comfort and the power, and I mean, we could go on for a while talking about who he is and how that affects us. But man, when we look to him, it's like same thing there. We're not just at the mercy of whatever happens in the world. It's like there's a hopefulness when there is something that can be done.
Yeah.
Whether that is an action of my own hand or a prayer. There's something freeing and hopeful in knowing that I'm not just stuck with absolutely nowhere to look or turn. So,
are you familiar with the Invictus poem?
No.
You'll know the ending. The William Ernest Henley. Okay, I've got it pulled up here, right here. But the last two lines: "I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. And I've gone back and forth at different periods in my life where I believe this and where I don't believe this. Now, applying the principle that discipline equals freedom in doing what you don't necessarily want to do, but what you know is right for you, leads to you reap the fruit of that down the road.
Yeah.
Like the simple example is working out 3 times a week for 6 months. You will have strength that you have gained and fitness that you have gained that was not there prior to that.
Yeah.
Right. So like discipline equals freedom in that manifestation is when you worked out like that, you got the freedom of movement that you did not have before. Right. So applying that principle, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Totally on board. And then there are others that would say that life is too volatile. You are too vulnerable as a person. Anything can happen at any time to you. I mean,
Sure.
You could get struck by lightning or get in a car accident and everything could be over in a snap of an eye or a blink of an eye. So how is it that I am the captain of my soul? Do you have thoughts?
I do have thoughts. There's truth that, and a lot of things could happen. I mean, yes, that is true. But I am also able, it is within my capability to respond. And isn't that what a captain does? A captain responds to the torments of the sea. When wind comes, when waves come, when the conditions get bad, a captain corrects, a captain makes adjustments. And I think there's always capability within us to do that. Now, whether that is an adjustment on our own part, or like I was saying a minute ago, sometimes I believe there are things that are beyond our capacity to correct. And hey, I am all about good stewardship, like good management. I mean, like, let's do the best we can. Let's be faithful is like, a biblical word we could apply to that. Let's do the right things that we know are right to do. But at the end of the day, the word says that Christ is an anchor for my soul. And so as we talk about captaining the soul, I think we got to realize that sometimes we're going to need an anchor. Sometimes my own strength isn't going to be able to hold the ship in place, but Christ is an anchor that's greater than my strength. So, hey, for anybody that is a believer, this to be true, and anybody that's not, I'm not trying to push. Maybe I am a little bit, but tell you there's hope in Christ.
Right.
So
when you relinquish that captain's seat and let him sit there, and let him be your anchor, there's freedom and peace that comes from that. Yeah.
So just telling you how it is for me. I think there is an extent of ability that I have within myself to respond to situations, but there are always going to be things that go beyond my ability, and that's where we need someone or something greater.
Sure.
And I think I know who that is.
For sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So much of life that you experience is what you respond. And that's what I've heard you say, I think 2 or 3 or 4 times already here, is like, life is going to happen.
Yeah.
How you respond to it dictates what you experience after what happens. And I think that's super important to keep in mind, just because like you can shape the outcome by how you respond to something.
Sure.
And you can choose to respond terribly,
Yeah.
or irrationally, or blow things out of perspective.
Right.
Or you can choose to be calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah.
Think things through and understand what's really going on around you.
I agree. You gave the example. We were talking a while back, and you were talking about the farmer and like all the stuff that
It's
happened
like my
to him.
favorite story.
I mean, you should just like throw that down real quick, because I think
Oh,
it
man.
applies here so much about responsiveness. I mean, that really changes. It doesn't change what's happening, but it really does affect your perspective of it. It affects the result that comes after the fact. I mean, you should just share that.
Yeah, how this story goes is it's all about a farmer and his son out on the countryside. And on one day, a horse comes up to this farm, and the farmer is able to capture it and harness it and then tame it, and it becomes useful for their farm. And so a neighbor says, "Wow, what good fortune that is." And the farmer says, "Maybe." Now, later, the son is riding this horse. He gets bucked off and breaks a leg. And the neighbor comes back and says, "Oh, wow, what misfortune." And the farmer says, "Maybe." But then later, the local militia comes to this farmer's house, and then they want to take the son into battle, but they see he has a broken leg, and so they can't take him. And then after the neighbor hears of this, he says, "Oh, wow, what good fortune." And the farmer says, "Maybe." And because everything that was seen as good or bad later became the opposite,
Yeah.
is the moral of the story. And I just think that's so powerful, is because you could win the lottery, but isn't the statistic about those who win the lottery end up just as broke as they were,
Yeah.
or the same financial level as they were when they won the lottery?
Sometimes worse off.
Sometimes yeah, because I can imagine what millions of dollars would all of a sudden do to you, and then the debt you might pile up.
Right.
In terms of that, it's like what could be good is later detrimental, and the opposite. Like,
Yeah.
COVID was bad, but not for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, there was opportunity in it. I mean, there was some devastating things that happened, but there was opportunity for those who were looking, or those who were willing to react in a way that wasn't just pure despair, anxiety, and fear, and then hole up in your closet, and then just never
Right.
even come out of your closet because you're so afraid. I mean, there were things that could have been done, working the system, abiding by the rules still, but
Yeah. It was good for anybody that was invested in Zoom.
yeah, how about that? For sure.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I think any situation,
Yep.
the response is going to either it's going to amplify how bad it is, or it's going to make it better. I mean, the
Yeah.
response is going to dictate a
Yep.
lot.
Yep.
And I think it sets you up for the future too. Something you said, I think ties in with this. You were talking about like doing the right thing, and how ultimately, like, if you'll do the things that are like good for you, then you'll be better off. The discipline to do what's good, even though like you don't really want to do it.
Right.
I think that's like the first hurdle that's really difficult for people to overcome, is when I have no desire. I don't want to do it. I'm not disciplined to do it, but like, that would probably be good for me. And I was thinking about, we've talked about identity and belief, and how those two things really, I believe, are tied together, belief and identity. And then out of that, what you do, how you live, what you talk about, what you think about. And I wrote this down, what you were saying that a minute ago. I believe that when you believe in something, then you're going to want to do that thing. Like so I'll give the example of working out. I didn't work out 5 months ago. And it was when I had a belief change for me that like, I am a person. I had to change the way I thought, because 5 months ago, what I thought was working out is good for some people and maybe that would help me in some ways, but I'm just not that kind of person. Maybe I've even said that to you before. Like, I'm not a workout person. I'm not really into that. I don't have time for that. Like, I had all these beliefs. Sure, I believed that maybe it was a good thing to do, but it wasn't until I changed a belief that I'm going to be a healthy person. And I had a reason to do that. I wanted to be healthy because, Teddy Roosevelt, I think I shared that quote with you.
Yeah.
His father told him, he was really sickly when he was a young boy, Teddy Roosevelt was, and his father told him one time, Teddy, your mind is going to want to take you places that your body will not be able to carry you. And I read that like a year ago, and it's just kind of been in there. It stirs around, and not just in my mind, but I think we'll talk about career and calling here maybe tonight a little bit. And I just believe that there are things that I've been put on earth to do that I will not be able to do if I don't take care of my body the right way. And so making that belief change that, it's not just like this worthless thing to get healthy. It's not just this superficial thing to get healthy. Because I've got a fiance and I think she's awesome, and I'm not trying to be on the market. I'm not trying to look good and impress anybody. I'm pretty comfortable with who I am, but I want to be healthy. I want to be able, I want to be strong. I want my body to be able to do the things that I would be called or have the drive or have the, desire to go on and do. And so that belief change that, being healthy isn't just about this superficial thing. It's about being able to spend all the time that I'm supposed to be here doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing, unrestricted by my own lack of discipline. And so when that belief changed in me, it was like, I think I texted you, I'm like, okay, Monday, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it's been 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Not that that's all that impressive, but it's, we've been pretty consistent about that.
Consistent. Yeah.
It's like, we're going to do this thing.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I was mildly shocked to get that text from you that first time when it was like, hey, I think I'm in. I'd have to go back and look at the actual text, but I was like, I didn't see it coming, but I was very excited to see it coming. Just and I even know what you were saying is true, is that it came after a personal conviction in what the efforts of working out would do for you.
Right.
And it's about health, but it's also beyond health.
It is.
Yeah. And I wish, everyone that ever walked into my practice would understand that is, yes, I know you want to be pain-free, but being pain-free is about more than being pain-free.
Yeah.
It's about what you can do now that you are pain-free, And if you don't have that in mind, then you are not the master of your fate. Something else is pushing your circumstances and your motivations. And
I was just thinking while you were saying that, we set the bar so low. I don't want to generalize, but I feel like some people, some of us, myself included, in some ways, we just set the bar so low on what is possible. Like you're saying, I don't want to have this pain anymore. There's so much more possible.
Right.
Forget not just wanting to be in pain. I want to be able to run and jump and lift. And, if I see someone that needs help out of a pool, I want to be able to pull them up out of the pool or go, rescue somebody or, I don't know. I want to be able to play on the floor with my kids.
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
That's a huge one. Because I come home after, several hours of work and applying my mind and adjusting people physically. And then it's like, boy, if I couldn't get on the floor and play with my kid.
Yeah.
Because that's usually, when you haven't been there for several hours and you get home and that kid looks at you and reaches their arms up and is like, I want you now. It's like, you can't, it's not like, okay, hey, I need to go conk out for 20 minutes and then I'll come back. Or it's like, come catch me in an hour. It's like, no, the time is now or you've missed it, and
right. So missing that,
right.
Forget about pain. I want to live life. I don't just want to avoid death. I want to live life.
And you struck a chord with me earlier. You talk about being a steward, and that is often talked about in a faith stance.
Yeah.
But being a good steward of life, I think, is our responsibility. It truly is just for your ability to breathe.
Yeah.
You are responsible of what you do with that breath. You are a steward of the breath that you have while you're here. And I'm excited to get better at that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some application.
Let's do that.
I mean, I think we've like teed this thing up pretty nice for,
we sure have
for today, but we've got 4 areas of life that we kind of have this podcast based out of. Those are health, career, and calling, resources, and relationships, not necessarily in that order. But you were saying earlier that you thought it'd be fun we're three episodes in. This is number 3
That's
here.
right.
Let's just like talk about how we do it.
That's right.
Let's let people know what's up with us. Kind of give a sneak peek into our day and our routines, our disciplines,
Amen.
if we wanted to use that word.
That's right.
How we keep these things healthy. So how do you want to do it? You want to kind of just jump back and forth? You can talk health. I'll talk health. You can.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's just do it. You
sure.
want to go for it?
Yeah, because health is a hot button for me too, which hoping my voice hangs on here. We're getting raspy.
That's all right. Little rasp is good.
Little rasp is good. We're gonna hold on as long as we can here.
Yep.
But I mean, food is the first thing that comes to mind when I think about health. In my principle, and Simeon Lang has kind of coined this, or he's really taken it away, but JERF, he says JERF, which is it means just eat real food. Because the majority, 95% of what you find at the grocery store cannot be labeled food. I kid you not. It's more chemical and it's man-made. And you need to stay on that outer rim of the grocery store because that is where your real food is. You walk in, what do you see? Produce. Stay there, live there. That's what I would say. I could get all preachy about this right here, but just eat real food. What is real food? An apple is real. Broccoli is real. Oreos, not real under any way, shape, or form. There is no way you can convince me or any rational human being that an Oreo is actual food. There is nothing you gain out of eating an Oreo. That is the definition of empty calories. Doritos, Cheetos, Fritos, the whole Edo family. You get nothing. It does nothing but consume your resources in order for you to handle this. Here I am. This is a hot button. This is a hot button for me.
Zealous.
I am zealous and jealous for health in this way. Just eat real food. And that's what I would just beg of people the most is people tell me time and time and again, we facilitate like a 10-day detox at the office, and we just got done doing that. And so many people get done with that and they come back and say, wow, I feel great. Like brain fog is gone. I'm not craving sugar anymore. I don't need coffee for energy to get through the day or pop or anything like that. And it's like, yeah, this is the way your body was like meant to. And it's just focusing on real natural food and pulling toxins out of you, So, there it was.
Is that all you got?
No, but I'll stop there for now. Yeah, I'll stop there. I mean,
you left the meat off your list.
There's a place for meat.
That's in the outer rim, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's even in protein. It's in the inner rim. You got to have clean sources of meat.
All right, cool.
Yeah, which is like why I like our friend Justin Robbins. I'll throw him a shout out because he's coming on the podcast next. You'll see him in the future, but he dedicates his process to a little bit less antibiotics and hormones. Yep. But he'll even tell you like there's a time and a place for it.
Yep.
But in his process, he chooses not to. But he does not. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you use hormones and antibiotics, so you stink. I'm not saying that. I mean,
yeah. I have no knowledge, so
correct.
I don't know.
We'll dig into the meat industry on a later day.
Yes, another time.
You like your meat, don't you?
I like meat. Yes, sir.
You're a meat eater.
Yes. It's packed with lots of good stuff.
You've been doing your research, huh?
A little bit.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's good.
Just trying to back up my beliefs a little bit.
For sure.
Don't want to just be eating meat ignorantly.
Yeah.
You've
got to know. You've got to know what you believe.
Yeah.
Got to know why you do what you do.
And I like it.
Well, I have my big 5, and really there's more than this, but I'll condense it to my big 5 on health. And food is one, movement is the next. And really, what I mean by movement, I mean like we lift weights 3 times a week.
Yep.
But we also we move every single day, and so I'm a chiropractor, so you're going to get a little bit of chiropractic philosophy here. But your posture is a sign about how your muscles move. Your posture is a pattern of how your muscles move. And so like I can look at you and know a lot about your movement pattern by the way you sit, the way you stand, the way you walk. Like, and I've been trained to do that. But there's a efficient method of all those ways, sitting, moving, walking. And when you are efficient in those ways, you move well. And so what I mean by like posture is moving well. And weightlifting, I think, helps you move well. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So watch out, everybody, because he's watching you.
I'm always watching.
He's always watching.
That's right. It reminds me of a Monsters Inc. quote. I'm always watching. Wazowski.
Ross.
Anyway.
Slug librarian.
That's right. That
Ross,
one.
yeah.
Thank you for understanding that reference.
Gotcha. Yep.
That's why we do this together.
Right.
Got my back.
Got you.
Water is my next biggest one. Is
Booyah.
half your body weight in ounces is the recommended dietary allowance of water as Lindsay takes a drink. Again, this is great. And I really shoot. I have a water bottle of 40 ounces, and I carry it around, and I try to go through that 3 times a day. And I do one in the morning before lunch. I do one in my afternoon shift before dinner, and then I try to get the rest either right away when I wake up in the day or like in the time after dinner. Yeah. So I'm shooting for 120 ounces of water a day, which 80 to 100 ounces would be acceptable, or I mean, half your body weight in ounces. Water makes you feel good. Water lubricates your joints. Water's good for your health and for your cells. Water is life's nectar. I had a teacher. He would go and he would say he would look at, I can't even remember. It was like a black leopard, some like highly functional, one of the fastest cats in the world. And he would say, do you know what this cat, this high functioning predator of nature drinks? Only water. And he would do it all dramatic like that, just to make sure you understood. Only water. Are you trying to be highly functional? Are you trying to be highly efficient? What are you drinking Mountain Dew for? What are you drinking coffee for? Water's all you need. And he'd get all serious like that. Man.
You know what I'm thinking?
About how much coffee you drink every day?
No, actually, I was thinking hippos drink water too.
Hippos, well, hey, yeah. I'm saying.
But yeah, I drink a lot of coffee too.
Yeah. Hippos drink water too.
Hey, that's a good point though. You know, like the animals, they got everything they need just out in the water. They don't need any extras.
No, none of them are out there making their own mixed drinks.
Surviving.
You know?
Yeah.
Right. They're just drinking water.
Strong drink water.
Right. Food, movement, water, sleeping. I mean, you got to sleep.
Yep.
I need 7 to 8 hours.
Same.
Yeah. Enough said. If I get 6 routinely, I'm hurting by 1 or 2 or 3 weeks of that. And then I feel myself get run down, and then my voice gets like this because I don't sleep.
So this is like a sign. The voice is like an
sign.
early sign of like take a nap.
Correct. Yeah. You need to find the time to rest because you're overdoing it on your body.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. And my last biggie for health is your gut health. I think is super important. Is your gut and your brain are like super connected.
Yeah.
And actually 80% of the nervous system communication between your gut and your brain happens from your gut to your brain. And 20% happens from your brain to your gut because your brain is your master control organ, right? So it's coordinating everything in your body. But yet like the gut is actually relaying more information to your brain than your brain is sending out to your gut, which is unique. Like the rest of your body, like your bicep is not sending that much information back to your brain. Your brain is just telling it whether to contract or relax. Your gut is unique in that it's super connected to your brain function.
It's like a sensory organ.
It is. Yeah, it truly, truly is. And so when you feed your gut the right things, that helps your brain work better. So it's a lot of times when it's people come to me in my office and they have symptoms, it's like we're going back to the gut. It's like that's the thing you need the most is gut health.
And so diet, is it go back to diet again?
Yes.
Gut health is
huge. Yep.
Majorly linked to diet.
Yep. And the probiotics, you have a massive microbiome. Like the bacteria in the world outweigh humans. The weight of bacteria outweighs humans.
Oh, wow.
And there's a massive amount of that in your digestive system. And it is, Wow. I mean, we're a symbiotic relationship. Like we need each other. But I could go on and on and again, but gut health is important.
That's your area, man.
It is my area.
I like it. Well, mine are probably not as impressive as yours. My health regiment I kind of broke it down into like 3 more conceptual categories. I said for my health, like what I do on a regular basis, I focus on sustaining health, preventing health issues, and then like growing in health. And so I kind of look at it that way. Like I've got like and I look at a lot of things this way. I heard a guy explain in an analogy one time with life. He was actually talking about ministry and like pastoring and kind of leading forward on things. He said, you're going to have like your long-term goals, like you're going to have the destination you want to get to. But if you look at it like you're building a railroad, you got to keep laying tracks in front of you. And so it's good to know like where you're headed. But at the same time, like you need to be laying tracks where you're going and then protecting the line you've got behind you.
That's good.
Yeah, isn't that a good?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Pastor Joe Bevilacqua of New Chapel.
Pastor Joe.
Up in Michigan. Yeah.
Good job, Pastor Joe.
He's a great guy. So anyway, train track metaphor could probably apply to a lot of these, but with health, that's kind of the way I'm starting to look more at it, is like I've got these sustaining things. And the 3 I would point out for sustaining health, first one for me is like enjoying it. Like I want to enjoy being healthy, which means I'm not going like overboard on diets or workouts or any of that kind of thing, you know. And I didn't do your 10-day detox because I wasn't ready. I'm not there yet. Yeah. I wouldn't have enjoyed that.
Sure.
And I'm glad that there are people who do and who have belief. And I'm not saying I don't like believe, but I'm not like convicted about how it would benefit me yet.
Sure.
So maybe one day I'll get there and do it. But I try to enjoy, you know, my health journey, my health process. I wanna not abandon ship because I hate what I'm doing so much. So like I enjoy our workouts most of the time. This last one was a little rough. This whatever you call that. It was hard, and that's okay once in a while. But if we did that every single time, I'd probably not be in there. So
you make good points.
It's got to be, you know, moderation, I suppose would be a way I'd say
Sure.
it. I want to enjoy it. I want it to be
Sure.
moderate. Health, I wrote down feeding it, you know, feeding myself. You know, I try to eat healthy, try to have the energy that I need. So yeah, I'm recognizing more and more that some foods are better about that than others. And so I try to feed good fuel to my body. You know, I think the further we go in health, and it's great having a guy like you who is very knowledgeable and passionate and zealous for health in the body. You know, it definitely rubs off on the people around you. So I do think I'm increasingly aware of the way some fuels affect me. And I think I'm becoming more selective ever so about what fuel I put in. Trying to adopt that kind of mindset of, you know, food isn't just a pleasure source. Sometimes it is. I mean, there's some food that is just great to eat. Like when my grandma cooks, I mean, that is not about fueling the body. That is about sensory enjoyment. All right. So that's got its place, I suppose. Sure. And that's part of that moderation enjoyment thing. But yeah, just kind of looking at it like fueling the body, feeding the body, and then working the body. That's kind of the other thing I try to do. You know, we talk about movement. You know, I've got, as a pastor, I mean, it's not the only thing I do, but I spend a significant part of the day at a desk, making calls, studying, doing administrative stuff. I mean, there's a range of things that I'll do in office. And so there's not as much opportunity always just kind of native to the job for movement. And so I try to make intentional efforts to get out and move. You know, I like most of my hobbies involve a lot of movement. Yeah. They're things that get me outdoors and in fresh air and working my body. And so working the body, that's part of that sustaining thing. The preventive thing, biggest thing for me that comes down to preventing health problems is rest. I've known this about myself for a little while now. You kind of alluded to it when you're talking about your throat getting raspy and that sort of thing. For me, it's like sinus problems. If I go a few days without getting enough sleep, if I'm overdoing it, overworking it, like I will get a sinus infection almost every single time. And what I've found is if I start getting those symptoms, I need like a 2-hour nap and I need to go to bed on time for a few days. Yeah. And then like I'm back, I'm good. Yeah. And I mean, I don't have a lot of health issues. I mean, I don't have health issues. Like, I think maybe I've told you, like, I've been to the doctor. I mean, you're a doctor too, and I've been being adjusted, which has been great. But like, I have not gone into a doctor for a health issue in like 5 years.
Right on.
Just
Yeah.
like I don't know. I don't get sick, and
Same.
there's different reasons for that. I mean, I think some of it is because I am aware and I try to rest and things like that. But I mean, I'll also tell you, like, I believe in the promises of God that we find in the Bible. I believe in life that is provided by the blood of Jesus, by the body of Jesus. That's what he said in his word. And I think I'm living proof of that, because I'm not like the pinnacle of healthy eating and healthy exercise. And yet the record shows I'm fairly healthy.
Yeah.
So I would not attribute that. I mean, I can't take credit and say, oh, it's all me. You know, I've got it figured out.
Sure.
The Isaac Wangler system is the way to be healthy. I would never say that. Like, glory to God, man.
Right.
That's where it's at. But that's what I'm aware of for preventing health issues. I try to rest. And then the other thing I do is I try to expose myself to difficult conditions. I think that I'm just a believer that when stuff is exposed to hard conditions, it gets harder. I mean, it's going to adapt, you know, to survive kind of idea. So like with the body, I mean, yeah, I want to get outside. I want to get around the dirt and the mud and the, you know, things that could potentially make somebody sick. I feel like the more I'm around that, the stronger my immune system's going to get. I mean, I want to push my body, right? And that kind of leads into the next part, which is growing. I mean, to grow your muscles, you got to push your muscles. To grow my immune system, you got to kind of push it. You got to use it. You got to test it. If I'm living in this sterile bubble, like my body's not going to have to use the systems that are in place. You know, if I never eat anything, my digestive tract is never going to have to work. And so, you know, then when I need it to work, how's it going to do that if I've never used it? And so, yeah, I guess I wrote down the word exposure. I try to expose so I can endure things, so that I can develop and grow in the preventative parts of health. So growing wise, I wrote down straining and then learning and then relationships. I feel like the way I've been growing in health is, working, straining, kind of pushing forward in areas, trying to grow. And that goes along with learning too, you know, like I want to learn more about, you know, the foods I'm eating. And I think just kind of gradually I'm trying to do that. You know, I'm trying to learn more about vegetables, which everyone I think is glad for in my life. They're like, "Yay, Isaac's finally eating some vegetables." It's great.
Yeah.
You know, there are some things I'm trying to learn about and gain some knowledge about, so I can apply different approaches in my life. And I know I'm not being super specific. Like, I can't tell you that I eat like so many vegetables a week. I try to have veggies with every meal. I do have meat with pretty much every meal. I try to drink not as much water as you, but I try to drink some water every day. I try to stay away from the processed stuff, the sweet stuff.
Yep.
I mean, kind of same things you're saying. And yeah, I mean, I want to push my body a few times a week, make it grow, you know, get stronger. And then, I mean, I would not be growing in health if I didn't have relationships with people that were healthy in my life. Like if I were going to put my finger on like one thing as far as growing in health, I would say the people that you are around are going to make a huge impact, because I mean, not only the foods or the habits that are introduced by who you're around a lot. Like, I mean, if I'm with someone who's eating all the Eatos all the time, you know, the Doritos and the Cheetos and the Oreos and all that stuff and the Tostinos, I'm going to end up eating some of that if that's what's available and what's around. But if I'm hanging out with people that are eating, you know, salads and locally processed and grown meats and drinking water instead of soda, and I mean, like, if that's what's available, like, that's what I'm going to end up eating. But then there's also the accountability aspect of like, when, I mean, like, I've even said, you know, like, oh, don't let Philip see that we're eating that. Don't tell him that we ate the DiGiorno pizza yesterday. It's like, I know you're going to bust my chops about it a little bit. Like, you ate what? Do you know
like,
what's in that?
You know what's in there, right?
Yeah, right. Like, well, you do. I don't want to know.
As long as you know, then you can make an informed decision.
Right. Yeah. And you know, so you help me make informed decisions.
Yeah.
But it's like the accountability aspect, even like with the gym. I mean, I've told you before, as much as I do want to grow and lift and stuff, like, for me, the reason I'm there every time is because I don't want to have someone else show up at the gym early in the morning before the sun's up and me be a no-show.
Right.
Like, for me, that's almost more of the motivation.
Sure. And
then the byproduct is like, yeah, I get to build some muscle too, which is nice. So I think having healthy relationships is part of, and I'm a relational guy, so that makes sense that would be part of it for me. But I think the relationships are huge.
Which you've segued perfectly into segment number 2, which we started with health there, but then relationships influence health so much that you almost can't separate them.
Sure.
And a couple of people talking about the concept of this podcast have suggested, I don't know how much longer I've got here.
Okay.
We're just going to hold on.
We'll get through as much as we can.
Yep. That relationships should be a part of, or health should actually be under. I can't remember what was suggested. Relationships possibly under health because they influence health so much, and how healthy you are influences your relationships as well. So with relationships, we really have 3 types, which those are the ones you have with yourself, with others, and with, I'm growing accustomed to saying the Creator, and we mean God the Father, the God of the Bible.
Yep.
But
everyone listening to this podcast may not.
Correct, and that's true, and
that's okay.
Leaving some space for that too. And so, I mean, at some point, you have to decide how you're here or why you're here.
Yep.
And so we believe in a creator, or even if you don't believe in the God of the Bible, you still might believe in a creator, or you can use whatever word you want. But there's this relationship you have with creation. Maybe you can put it that way. That
you are a created being.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. And so you're relating to yourself and to other people, but then also to your surroundings, which we give a tribute to God the Father for. But the way that I really work on my self relationship is, I mean, this is, and again, the whole scheme of this, we are talking about what we do in these topics. Then the nitty gritty is talking about how to execute these things well.
Yeah.
But then the ultimate inner circle of that is why you do these things. And I think your relationship with yourself, this is about learning who you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at, how you benefit other people, how you benefit a spouse, your skill set so that you can fall into the right career, and on and on and on. Like, your self relationship is about who you say you are and what you think about yourself in a way. And a couple of the notes I have written down here is like the top way I work on my self relationship is reading books and then reflecting on that book and how it hits me in my heart, right? And so I have a pile of books here that have just been influential on me. And the best one, I mean, the top one was, this one probably woke me up the most, was Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. And because he really talks about what it means to be a Christian. And this is a book about identity. And if you're going to identify as a Christian, what it means to be that.
Sure.
And it really woke me up to, I mean, I was really a weak man. And I think others can confirm that. Is like, I just wasn't a productive person in multiple avenues. And that book just kind of like helped define me.
Yeah.
Also how God sees me. And then once I started operating from that point, things were clearer in my mind, and I had purpose.
Yeah.
Which led to passion.
That's awesome.
Which led to results. And very fruitful time in my life.
Praise God for that.
Yeah.
I got a similar one. I mean, while you're grabbing your next book, I not Mere Christianity, but for me, Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. That was similar in that sense. It's like reading that just brought it into perspective of God created you with a purpose. And here are some of it's a great book. So did a similar work in me.
Right on.
Yeah.
So good. This one is called Crash the Chatterbox by Pastor Stephen Furtick. And two Christian books here. But the Crash the Chatterbox really taught me how to handle this other voice, like the depiction of there's an angel on one shoulder and then there's a demon on the other. That voice that the demon takes sometimes is this self-condemning voice. Yeah. And the biggest tool that voice of condemnation will use will be fear, anger, insecurity, or discouragement. And so when you're hearing these things, this is not you. This is, your flesh, the condemning part of you saying you're not good enough. Yeah. You're a failure. You'll never make it, And when you're experiencing these emotions, there's a way to combat that with truth, with wisdom. But you have to first be able to identify it, and then second, be able to handle it.
Sure.
And Crash the Chatterbox was Excellent, excellent, excellent.
That's so good because I think it identifies the need to stand in your belief, because like all those things you were talking about, the fear, the discouragement, this like self-condemnation thing. I mean, I think when you know exactly, like if you know what you believe and you know who you are, you've got that set, then you can always look at what is this voice, and you can say that voice doesn't line up with who I am. So shut up.
So shut up and get out of here.
Yeah.
Correct. And don't get in my way anymore.
That's right. Bring the truth.
Bring the truth. Yeah. Bring the truth. And this last book, before we move on here, is called Wild at Heart. And I'm only one chapter in.
Yeah.
And this is because you told me about it.
I did.
And I literally bought it in the gym. Amazon, you know how that one swipe thing? Every now and again, there's a time for that. That is a dangerous trap. You should not use that, by the way. If you should shut that feature off. But in this case, knew I wanted it, and I wanted it right then, and so I used that one swipe, and then it was at my door 2 days later. And one chapter in, it's like, in the thing I took away, Tyler's sitting here. Tyler's Lindsay's wife. Hey, guy.
Lindsay's husband.
Oh, boy. Tyler's Lindsay's husband. Forgive me that happened.
Hey, it's okay. I said Brady was still with the Patriots earlier, so we've all made mistakes.
Good. Okay, perfect. Right on. We were talking about what hit me the most in that first chapter, and it was that all men at a root have a desire for fighting a battle, going on an adventure, and saving the damsel in distress. Yeah. Right? Those are the three right there. And that, a lot of your motivations come from a desire for that. And I think he talks about, the guys that bought they were the first guys to go west of the Mississippi, Lewis and Clark.
Oh yeah.
Those guys. And what drives them? He has a long list. Magellan circling the world, Columbus heading across the Atlantic thinking you were going to fall off the face of the earth at that time. The thing that drives them is this pursuit, this need, this drive to go on an adventure.
Yep.
In this like fight to be enclosed in a cage and to say this is your space and you can't go out of this. It's like men at our heart is we have this desire to experience life in an untethered way.
Right. Live fully.
Correct. And it's like, that I feel that.
I know.
It was like defined for me what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
What an experience.
It's like, I texted you about that earlier.
Yeah.
I was like, it like connects a dot that like I didn't realize wasn't there, but as soon as it was pointed out, I was like, oh my gosh, that's
really a great way
some of it.
Yep.
Like this is some of what I've been like looking for,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you all the way. I'm like reading it. I'm like, I want to go climb a mountain right now.
And I didn't get it when you were telling me that, but now I do.
Yeah.
Because it's like something's been accessed on the inside of you.
Right.
And it's good.
It's like there's this heart desire that's so, and I mean, we could probably just spend a podcast. Maybe we will talk about the book.
Exactly what I was thinking.
But I mean, like, there's this part that's been so suppressed, and as soon as it's identified, it's like, oh my gosh, that's there.
Yep.
It's in there, and there is a constructive and mature and a good way for men to be men and
Correct.
bring it out in society. So love it, man.
Yeah.
What else you got for self?
That was it. And then actually there was the books, and then understanding just like my person, my manhood, my identity, and not condemning myself is really what it is about. My relationship with myself is not getting to the point where I'm burying myself in all this shame, guilt, and condemnation.
Sure.
And so I've had to learn how to do that, because that was something I was not good at, is because when you're not getting it from outside sources, and when you're actually hearing the contrary, when you're hearing that, you're not good enough for varsity.
Yeah.
You start identifying yourself as not good enough for varsity. And so when I finally became of age and got on a varsity team, I was not ready for the experience because I was still identified as a JV junior varsity. This is my level. And I never saw myself at the higher level thriving.
Gotcha.
And so now I have learned that I need to like see myself doing what I know I want to do before I get there. I've got to like identify that this is me, even though I'm not there yet. This is me. This is who I am. I'm meant to do this. And
you were like restricted by your lack of belief.
correct. Yeah. Self-belief. Yep. Didn't believe in myself. So
It's like finding out you're worthy. It's another great thing about the gospel, man. Like, you're loved, you're worth it.
right.
Anyways, that's great.
Yeah.
Do you wanna go through the rest of your relationships, or do you want to like bounce?
I mean, quickly here. Yeah. I mean, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with others, which, I mean, I have a great relationship with, I mean, I'm blessed. And, to have like a family dynamic.
Yeah.
And my wife's family is phenomenal as well. And I can't wait to have some of them down as guests for us to chop it up with, because they've got some insights, and I have really grown as a man just by being around that group of people. And yeah, phenomenal. But then here, even locally, I mean, I'm part of a Bible study that meets every Tuesday, and that has been the most fruitful thing this last year to 3 years when we started doing it. Has been great for me in developing relationships and learning how to relate to others better, and learning how to listen to people and not being takers from people, but yet being able to produce in their life. I've learned better how to do that, and still learning, excited to learn more.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the last relationship is with the Creator, and I mean, you're helping me do that, and you're my spiritual guide right now. You're my pastor,
Yeah.
and so I'm pleased to be able to do that and to learn more about Him and how He sees me, so that I can identify the way that He sees me, and that further helps me love myself
And
love
others.
others better. Once I understand how He loves me,
Yeah.
it's really not even possible until you adapt to that.
Sure. Yeah. It's good, man. My relationships, like the things I do, are pretty similar. My first one with self, which, that self relationship, I wrote down a couple things about identifying that. And the first note I had was like, really, that self, for me at least, that relationship with self is so tied to calling and career. And a lot of that does come out of belief, believing that I've been created for good works. It says that in Ephesians 2:10. And I've been created for a good purpose, a good calling. Other people would call it a career. Just believing that I've been created like with purpose, and so that's a big part of self relationship. Another word I wrote down was identity. Just kind of setting out the definition for me. I look at that self relationship like, who am I? That would be the question I ask. Like, who is Isaac Wangler? And so I've got three things I wrote down that are a regular part of my life in helping to just kind of grow and keep my identity solid. The first one for me, again, was reading, just like you said, you're for yourself. I wrote down reading with honest eyes. And so I spent a lot of time reading in the Word. Some of that is because of my calling as a pastor, but it's also because I identify as a follower of Christ. And so if I'm going to be that, then I need to know what He said and who He is. And so I do a lot of reading in the Word for both of those reasons. And in that, as I read, I try to do a lot of reflection also, and just honestly look at, okay, this is the example, this is the model, and how am I comparing to that? Because really my heart is to resemble and be like Christ was, and I fall short of that every day. But as I study and I read and I just get close to Him through the Word, that really helps me, looking at it with honest eyes, to kind of see who I am, where I'm falling short, where I need to grow. And He helps me do that. And then I've got, I mentioned like purpose-driven life, and I've read that Wild at Heart, or am in the process. And there's a lot of other books. I mean, I'm blessed to be able to do a lot of reading, and even other materials from authors that I trust in some aspect or some degree. I mean, there are people I read after for like one subject, and I'm not going to give them access or authority in every area of my life. I'm not going to give them an influence, in maybe every part. Like the financial book I'm reading, I'm probably not going to like have that tie over into my relationships. But like, I want to grow in what I believe and what I know and what I value about maybe a subject. And so I'm going to read and look honestly at myself and do some comparison and see where these ideas, where these texts, other than the Bible, I look at that as truth. So like that, I look at it, and if I'm falling short, then I'm going to assess how I apply it, how I change, how I grow, how I develop spiritually. But other things, I look and I see how they fit into my identity, and then I try to apply and adjust to grow. Next thing I wrote down about self relationship identity is counselors. I've got people in my life that they know who I am, they know what I'm about, and they keep me, they help to keep me grounded. And so I take the counsel of others seriously. I would kind of put the word in that category too. I look at the word as the voice of God, and so I take that as counsel for my life as well. And so counselors, being the word of God, but also a group of mostly men that have gone places that I want to go, but done successfully things I want to do, who I trust, who I value the inside of. I talk regularly with them. And then, I wrote this down too, and this kind of ties into the reading point, but like critique, like, I guess just saying being honest with myself about things, it would make me feel good to just read and say, oh yeah, I've got it all figured out, and I already knew that, and I've already got this down. But just being honest with myself about who I am and where I fall short and where I need to grow.
Do you keep a journal?
A journal? Mm-hmm. I don't keep a journal, but I do keep a book of wisdom and things that are, valuable to me. My golden nugget book. So no, I don't journal and today I did this wrong and I fell short here, and or I got this right and did this. I don't do that, but I do try to reflect pretty regularly. Anytime that something happens and I wasn't sure how to handle it, anytime there's something that's kind of like new or different, I'll try to reflect on that and see how I did, how I responded, and how that lines up with my values and beliefs and identity. So yeah, there's some self relationship. For others, the first thing I wrote down with relating to others is acknowledgement. I think one of the most valuable things we can do in relating to other people is acknowledging the relationship. And I think that for me has been really about becoming intentional of kind of maintaining the tether to people is sort of one of the illustrations I could give. It's like, if my life is like, and I'm not trying to say like I'm the center of everything. I'm not, but like in my life, I mean, there's all these other ships, right? If we looked at everybody's life like a ship, we were talking about being the captain, right? There's like, let's say we're tethered together. My family, we had a boat for a period of time, and we would go and get on the lake, and we'd drive around in tube and all that stuff. But then we would go and dock, and a lot of time there'd be a few other boats that we wanted to tie up with because we were friends, and there were tethers from boat to boat. And when those tethers fell away, the boats would drift apart and that kind of thing. And so I guess in relationships, I look at it like, I've got my boat, but there's all these other boats around me that I want to be connected to. And so I've got these tethers, which is our relationships, and just acknowledging and maintaining that tether, I guess, is the way I look at doing that. Comes a lot of different ways. It can just come from, trying to talk to them somewhat regularly. I mean, I'm not saying I don't go through my contact list and like check people off as I talk to them, but like I try, if I've got a relationship with someone, I'm going to just try to acknowledge them. I mean, whether I want to have a conversation or not, whether I'm like, just feeling it, or I've got something interesting, like I'm at least going to acknowledge the fact that you're a part of my life. So acknowledgement is kind of the first way I think keeping relationships with others good. That's part of it. Time and engagement. I wrote down time, and then I blew up the word engagement, because I think engaging in relationships is really how we're going to have good relationships. Just simple as that. I think if someone's actively involved in my life, then I'm going to try to have an engaged relationship where I at different levels, I know a little bit of what's going on in your life, and like, hey, I'm here for you to whatever extent our relationship would dictate or allow. And there's a complex kind of dichotomy in that too, because there's different kinds of relationships. There's there are friendships, and then there are I mean, a lot of people will have working relationships, and then maybe there are other types. I mean, you said a minute ago, like pastor, right? So like I'm your pastor, but I also see myself as your friend and the co-host of Unfiltered, and so it's like there's a lot of different roles of relationship that like you and I have going back and forth. It's like when I was in Bible college, they talked about wearing hats. Like I put on one hat and then I take it off and put a different hat on, depending on what the role, what the relationship in that moment requires. And so just engaging, fully in whatever kind of relationship we've got at the moment. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be present. If I'm giving you my time, I'm not going to be on my phone scrolling on Facebook while we're talking. Like I'm here. I'm going to engage in our relationship. So I think that's something that I value and I try to bring. And then hearing people, listening, like you reference that, not just what can I get out of you, what can I take from this relationship, but like I think sometimes just hearing people, letting them talk can be one of the most valuable things we can do. Sometimes people don't want an input, they just want to be heard. Yeah. There's a lot of people that don't want to listen. So I try to be a hearer for people. And then I try to love people indeed. That's something that the word teaches. It's something Jesus taught. I try to love indeed, not just in words. And I don't know, I guess I've known people along the way that said, I love you, I got you, I'm there for you. And then it's like the moment comes and you're not there. Right. So I don't know. I guess that kind of goes back to engagement, but I try to show up. I try to follow through. I try to act on what I'm saying, and I try to not say things that I don't really mean in relationships. I try to not oversell relationships or overpromise relationships. I want to be real with people, and if our relationship's not there, then we either need to get it there or realize that it's not. But just be real and love people in action. So, got any interjections there? Or you want me to keep going? Keep going. Okay, so. Third one, relationship with God. You said creator. I'm just going to hold to my guns and say God. I've already talked a little bit about this and like his voice in the word. Like that's so much of it for me, is the word, the Bible, and reading that to hear, not just to check it off. If you listen to me preach, I mean, that's going to come up periodically that, my relationship with God, and I believe his intent for all of us isn't for it to just be this kind of contractual relationship where I do this and then I get this, or I'm going to check these boxes, and if I do this, then I'm going to get this in return, or this won't happen to me as long as I'm doing this, this, and this. I think when we get outside of that mindset of, it's really a religious mindset of I'm going to do this and this will be the return. And it's like trying to work the system of God. God's not a system. He's someone to be related to, so kind of getting relational and personal with him in that way, going to the word to hear what he would say and not just to fulfill some kind of duty. That is the primary way of me growing and knowing about him, growing to know who he is. That comes through reading the word, wanting to get to know him. It's like if I showed up on a date and I just wanted to talk about myself the whole time, or I just wanted to like get through the dinner so that we could like move on, or I could like get the date over with or whatever else, like that's not a way to build a relationship. I believe God's similar in that way, that I can't just approach it like I want to do my duty so that we can move along here. Really, it's just, for me, it's about getting to know him, and that comes through reading the word. And then prayer and worship is it's involved in that too. I would say reading the word is a way that I'm going to come to know him, but worship, prayer, that's my expression really back to him. And part of prayer is listening. And we could go into that another time, but those are both worshiping, whether that's with music or just with words, because that can be either, or in an action of submission of some kind. I mean, those are all ways that I worship God, and I think that is valuable in developing the relationship. And then just trying to be aware all the time. I believe that he's with us all the time, that he is ever present, and so I try to be aware and I try to be responsive. So There'll be times where I'll just be driving down the road and it's like all of a sudden there's like this thing inside of me that I feel like, I could almost just like start preaching while I'm driving down the road, because it's like there's this stirring happening in me, and I believe that is part of hearing what God would have to say in that moment, and then just prioritizing that relationship, keeping it first, and that's something that I just try to take time to do every day. I don't always do it. I'd like to say I did, but I try to start the day identifying that relationship and prioritizing that relationship as number one. I try to have my feet hit the ground getting out of bed and saying like, Lord, I'm yours today. You're my priority. And so whether he is or not, I'm just telling you, for me, that is how I approach that relationship and grow in that relationship. So hope that was good.
Even the World Health Organization, the WHO, defines health as, we've got minutes left here.
Minutes.
Okay. As physical, emotional, and mental well-being. And so here you have you.
Yeah.
Talking about how like you handle your mental health and your emotional health and your relationship with God. It's like you're a spiritual guru at this point. And the way that I'm just going to call you that because I think you are. Okay, you don't have to accept or deny that. It's just the way it is. Is here we're getting insight into how you stay mentally and emotionally well, which is really important, I think, in a day and time like this.
Yeah.
So I think what you said is valuable.
That's good.
I'm going to keep moving here and get through this next couple of topics here so we can spare the voice. But we've gone through health. We've gone through relationships. Next, we have your career, your calling, or your passion in life. And then lastly is your resources. And my career, my calling, I think, is to help people. Is to help people grow and flourish in their health specifically. And chiropractic was the method that lets me do that the best and the way that I think is the truest to who I am and who my identity is. Okay. And so the most rewarding situation I have in life is helping others take their health from unhealthy or a point of dis-ease. Because on a spectrum, we talk about ease is over here. That's health. That's on the right spectrum. In the middle is this position of dis-ease where like health is not being flourished. And it's this like lead up time to where if it stays there too long, you lead to disease. And so when you take somebody out of, now chiropractic, I think is good. It can be done to take someone from disease to ease to health, but it's really good at getting somebody out of dis-ease where you're not in ease, but you're not in dis-ease yet, and taking them to ease again. That's when chiropractic really shines. And that's probably when I get my most joy out of my career is when, someone commits to the process and then commits to the journey and reaps the results. But chiropractic all starts from like in my heart as for my career, and what I'm most passionate about is like, I just feel like I need to be in a service career. Like, at one point I thought architecture was really cool. I don't have any drawing or sketching or like drafting ability. So that was out really quick, but it just like didn't fulfill my heart because I don't think I, could have helped as many people as I'm capable of in a different field, you know? And so chiropractic and just doctoring was where I landed. But, other than that, your passions and your calling in life is more than your career. Like chiropractic is what I do, but it's not who I am. It's one of those hats I put on, I wake up, I put on my chiropractic hat, but I come home and I'm no longer a chiropractor, And so like,
well, you kind of are though.
Well, okay. Yeah. It's grafted into who I am and what I do.
Yeah. It's part of it goes back to your belief.
Sure.
I think, cause like, you're not on the job when we're hanging out, but you're still aware of postures and you're like we were at lunch after church yesterday and you're like going around the table, propping people up in their seats because they were slouching.
I apologize if that was too much for anyone, but
I'm just saying, I think when it comes to career and calling, calling especially, like maybe career you can differentiate, but I think when it comes to calling, like it's like infused into who you are.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it anyway.
Yeah. Like, sure.
Like, I am Pastor Isaac when I'm out at the church on Sunday and through the week. And I mean, I am when I'm not there too. Like it's part of who I am. I mean, like we were talking the other day about when we get on certain subjects, it's like both of us, we go to another level. What's that thing that takes you to another level?
Yeah.
Probably your calling.
Yeah. Yeah.
That zeal that you've got for health and posture and spinal alignment. And like, I mean, you get fired up about it.
Yeah.
There's something in you that stirs up. And it, like, I mean, if I were to go back to the message I preached yesterday, it's like there's this heat that boils out of you. And it's like, hey, get ready because here comes unfiltered.
Yep. That's right.
Get healthy.
Yeah.
And like, you know, for me, it's not the same stuff. I mean, I don't get that fired up about like spinach and broccoli, but and all the other good things that you get fired up about.
Yeah.
Water, drinking water.
Well, and maybe even the thing that gets me more fired up than the health topic is, I mean, Romans 12, the motivational gifts, and we've talked about this, just like really floats my boat. Man. Yeah. And so like, I feel like there's 7 of them.
Yeah.
Romans 12, you can dig into this. We can talk more, leave a comment, whatever you want to do. But it's like, I really feel like I thrive and I am fulfilled when I'm able to see things and make it better.
Sure.
Versus like other people are really good at teaching and sitting down, teacher, student, and bringing somebody along. But really for me, it's more about like, that's my ultimate passion in life is seeing things and making it better in any given situation. And I get to practice that through practicing chiropractic.
Sure.
Yeah. But I mean, the same principle applies for, I mean, we're making improvements on this podcast. We're seeing things and seeing how we can do better and seeing how we can relate the message better. And so, I mean, you can relate that thing, that passion anywhere. So you're totally right when you're talking about, I mean, it's part of you. It's who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that when it comes to calling, there is like you've been created for something.
For something. Yes. Everyone. Yeah.
And
everyone is what you're saying. You're saying
yes,
everyone
absolutely.
has a unique.
I believe that. Yes. I believe every single person has been uniquely and wonderfully made by God for a good work, for a good purpose, for a good calling.
Right on.
And
once you find that, it's like the dots are connected.
It's like, it's part of who you are. Yeah. I mean, and I think even the world, like even if you don't believe in God, I think people still identify this because, I mean, even just like secular, you know, like motivational speakers and those kinds of folks. I mean, they'll talk about, you know, if you do what you love, then you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah. I mean, everyone's heard something like that, right?
For sure.
Well, it's because maybe you're not doing it for the right reasons. Maybe it's not for like the good work that maybe God would call you to do with it, but it's like you're doing something that you've got a passion for, a fire for.
Yep.
You know, I think we were created for specific good works. So
we'll keep going here.
My little career calling. So, I mean, really, it's not all that far off, like from what you've been talking about. I really believe that career calling, like, I think it comes back down to purpose, and I think there's a broad purpose that has to be decided, and I think that comes out of the relationship with God, or like you said, the Creator. I think you kind of have to answer some of those big questions that we've talked about before.
Yes.
You got to answer those in order to know like what the point is, because honestly, like if there is no anything else other than right here, right now, I mean, like you should just be out like doing whatever you have to do to make your life the most comfortable that it can be right now. Go have the best time you can by any means necessary and hurt anyone it takes to get there. I'm not advocating for doing that. I think that's so wrong, so morally screwed up. But like, if that's the ideology is, you know, we're just all here and there's nothing else, like, yeah, then why not? But I believe once you kind of come to terms with those big questions that we've talked about in the past, and you recognize there is a destiny and eternity on the other side, that there is a purpose you were created for, that there are morals for here and now. I mean, once you get brought to terms with some of this and you get a hold of some purpose with your life, you realize like, hey, there is a point, there is a purpose, kind of in a broad way. For me, that is living for Christ. That's like my overarching purpose. And then within that, I believe that there is I would call it a calling. Kind of, I heard somebody break it down and say like an assignment. You know, there's a purpose, but then there's like an assignment within the purpose. Like we've all got our, you know, our parts to play. The word talks about that. You know, we're all members of a body. We've all got different functions. We all have assignments, if you wanted to use that language. And so discovering that, I think, is a process that, and people struggle with the very specific. And I mean, I've talked to people who want me to just like have it for them. Like, Pastor, just tell me what I'm supposed to do. I'm like, I don't know, man. I would read the word. I would be praying. I'd just spend time with the Lord, because I believe the truth is he wants to speak to people, not through me, but he wants to speak to them. He wants to speak to you. So, I think when it comes to purpose, you gotta know what you believe to get that. Until you believe something, I don't think you're gonna be able to find a purpose. You're just gonna be purposeless, and that's no good. And once you got a purpose, I think you can start setting a vision, for your life, and whether it's real specific or, I was talking about that train earlier, you can kind of like lay the end goal. For me, the destination, like, I'm gonna be at heaven one day, and I want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant, right? And that's in the word. And so that's what I want. That's kind of my long-term vision. Now, the steps between here and there, that's like laying these tracks. I wrote down the words direction, planning, and stepping. In all of this conversation, like, for me, a big part of all of it is prayer. It is just spending time with the Lord, voicing concern, frustration, thanks. Thanks is a big part of prayer. Talking to him, talking to God, and then being led, being quiet, being available, just listening. And I'm just talking out of my own experience, and this is from a Christian background, but for a long time, I wanted to hear like an audible voice of God, and that he still has not spoken to me that way, in case anybody's wondering. And there have been times where I've gotten like words in my spirit, like in my heart, a way to describe it. Like I've got words in me that weren't from my mind, and no one was saying them. So, and I knew they were good and godly. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's the voice of God speaking to me, this quiet inner voice. But then there are other times where I just know, and people give that different names. I mean, some people call it like intuition. And I'm not trying to say that every intuition is the same as the voice of God. I'm not saying that. But for me, I've become familiar with what I would say is an inner witness. It is the knowing of, yes, this is right, or no, this is not right. And it's something that I can identify because I've spent time hearing it. I know what your voice sounds like, because we're close. We're friends. I mean, we know each other. You probably know my voice when I start talking. Yeah. So it's like there's a familiarity aspect that only really comes with spending time with him and getting to know him. And so out of that, I can be led. And so that's the key element for me, is like getting the steps. It comes from time with him and, considering what he has to say, taking his counsel. But then in like a more practical way, like if somebody wasn't living that way, these are other things I do too. And I think these would be applicable for anybody, whether you have a relationship with God or not. Counseling. I mean, you gotta have some people that know some stuff. And, that's a proverb too, that there's a safety in a multitude of counsel. So whether you like that or not, it's the truth. I mean, people have boards, they've got advisors, people who make big decisions, they've got folks they talk to. One-man army is not a good thing, because they've only got one perspective, and it's a good thing to get different eyes looking at a problem. So counseling with other people who are knowledgeable, that's definitely part of moving forward in career and calling, and kind of staying on the road to progress, if we wanted to use that lingo. Right on. And then learning, just being a student all the time, never getting to a point where I think I know it all or I've got it all down. I'm gonna study what I need to study to know more than what I know today. I don't want to go to bed at the end of a day and be at the exact same place that I was at the start of that day.
Well, now your groups here are morphing, because it's almost like you're talking about, I'm out
of gas
here. Yep. I'm out of gas. Okay. But you're almost talking about how you spend your time and your energy here as you're talking about career and calling, which is, why I like this format where we break it down into these 4 areas, because they are so related.
Sure.
And they feed into each other. They produce life into each other. Yep. Unless you allow one to consume all the other areas of your life, right? And are you ready to go into the last one?
Let's just do it, yeah.
For sure. The last one, as in our resources, is what we're coining it as. It used to be just about money and money habits, but then like your time and your energy are too valuable of resources to omit from this.
Sure.
And so you kind of hit the nail on the head here, as your time and your energy is really defined with what your passion is and how you're going to spend it. But
what your money is too.
Correct. Yeah. So they're so intertwined, just like health and relationships are intertwined here. These are maybe largely or mainly intertwined here, but and these are real brief because resources is probably where I'm the worst at, honestly. Out of all these 4 areas, this is where I need the most effort right now, or else it takes advantage of me. Like my time. My time is, I'm trying to get very good about scheduling things and prioritizing things that I know I want to get done or need to get done.
Yep.
Like you have to have a schedule. You have to have an agenda.
Right.
I can't just show up and say, well, I'm going to be there from 8 to 9 one day, and then I'll be there from 10 to 11 the next, and not let anybody know when I'm going to be there. Your schedule has to be set.
Yeah.
And so then your work schedule dominates the majority of your day. So then you have to schedule in date night, which some people is oh, you really have to schedule a date night? Shouldn't every night be a date? It's well, hey, life happens, And so, prioritizing my wife, I have time that's in my mind, in my schedule, set aside to be with her and to be with my kid. But then I also have variable time set in my schedule, which allows me to do whatever I need during a set amount of time. And that's often my lunch hour or an hour or two at night. And so during the day I'm at the office, I have my office time, but then I have time in the morning, time over lunch, and time at the end of the day that I have available to get done what I want to get done. And 3 days of those weeks, morning time is spent at the gym and reading books. I always try to read books, try to read 10 pages a day of anything, including scripture. That does not include scripture, but a book a month and at least 10 pages a day is what I shoot for. And then energy, when we talk about energy, to me, that really is about resting and learning how to replenish your energy.
Sure.
Because if you really want to talk about energy, we got to go up and talk about food, movement, water, sleep, and those types of things. But it's being able to mentally rest and physically rest to nourish your energy and resupply is huge. There's even 8 hours of sleep comes from research that says the first 4 hours of sleep is all about muscular repair, cellular repair. Oh. Yeah. Then the last 4 hours of sleep is about rejuvenation, cellular rejuvenation and mental rejuvenation. So when you're only getting 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep, your body is physically repairing itself, but you are not getting rejuvenated. And so that last hour or two is often the most key, but that is what is sacrificed because it's you can't sacrifice the first hour or two. You can only sacrifice the sleep at the end, when you get up,
Right.
So you can't say, oh, I want to repair a little less so I am more rejuvenated. It doesn't work that way. And so it's going to bed early or scheduling bedtime has been huge for me as well.
Do you have any idea if the requirement for how much time is spent in muscular repair changes? If you're less active, do you have any idea?
I don't. That's a great thought.
I'm just curious. I wonder if the person who's sedentary has different sleep requirements. I know. I've heard about how important rest is. If you're trying to make gains, like we are, because the rest is when you rebuild.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I definitely get that part, but I wonder for someone else if it changes the needs.
I'm sure.
Because you hear about people who only need and I think it's wild to think someone could live on 4 hours of sleep.
Which we listen to Jocko a lot, the Jocko podcast, and he's one of those guys that.
And his muscles need repair time, so
because he's ripping things down every day. He's working out every day.
Yes, he is.
And it shows.
Maybe he just rejuvenates with coffee.
Maybe. See, I feel like those people, it'll catch up to you one day.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's a way to. Just the way that your cortisol spikes and cascades throughout the day. It's when you don't sleep enough, there's no way for it to reset totally.
Yeah.
Unless, I don't know, you've got some nutritional hijack.
Yeah.
Or you're just cellularly, you've got we call it a SNP or a mutated gene code that allows you to do something that other people can't. Those are real.
Huh.
And most of them are detrimental, but some of them, I think you've got to have one that helps you handle caffeine.
Yeah,
I had one cup of coffee today. It messed me up.
Seriously?
I was off the wall. Man. It was just, everything was altered. And I felt so dehydrated afterwards. I had my 40 ounces, and I was done with it before the shift was over, my 3-hour adjusting shift. So thirsty.
Really?
That was 1 cup of coffee.
Wow.
Yeah, versus you over there, dousing
I drink a lot of coffee.
a pot or 2 a day. It's like, I don't know how you do it.
I don't know, man.
I think your gene code lets you've got something. We can figure it out. I could take you through a process.
Take me through the process.
Anyway, to let you get at yours, I mean, time, energy.
Okay.
Time is about scheduling. Energy is about resting. Money, the last one. I'm going to steal something from my dad. He'll be on the podcast. I can't wait for him to
That'll be awesome.
break this down. He has Tim's buckets of money, and it's all about 4 buckets. And your first bucket is about having a reserve. If I get this wrong, Dad, I'm sorry. Okay.
Still learning.
I'm still learning. You can come on and perfect this, okay? But the first bucket is about like having 6 months expenses reserved, sitting there untouched in case of emergency. That's bucket 1. Bucket 2 is about your savings in your checkings account or your like investments or your stocks, things that are making money for you right now.
Sure.
And so your career, your calling, the things that make you money would feed into this. And then what you do with that money is that's bucket number 2. Bucket number 3 is like your Roth IRA, which we both have set up, and I both totally recommend because that money is taxed. Never is what my dad will talk about is a Roth IRA. And that multiplies exponentially as it sits there over time. And so we benefit greatly by having that go in now because it's just, it really grows over time. And then bucket number 4 is called legacy planning, which is not about me, but it's about my next of kin, sort of a thing. And so he talks about filling each bucket of money and dedicating time and resources into each area as you grow in resources.
Yeah, I'm excited about him coming
It'll
on.
be dynamite.
It'll be awesome to hear about.
Yeah.
Love to tear into the buckets.
Oh, yeah.
Hear all about
financial.
the methodology behind it. Yeah, it'll be great.
Yep.
It's cool, man. Well, glad you got your buckets.
Got the buckets.
My resources are really very similar to what you said with time, scheduling, prioritizing. I mean, that's where it happens. I mean, there's only so much of it. We're not going to get more of it. We've talked about that before. So you've got to prioritize what is the most important, and then you got to make an intentional effort to put the priorities above the non-priorities on a regular basis. And it's not always an easy thing to do, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like I tell people a lot of time, like, I'll find time, I'll make time, I'll move some things around, figure it out. And I do that, but man, there are consequences to that, because then other things suffer. And sometimes that's okay, but I don't know. I suppose almost in a similar way to like money, because I agree with definitely like that first thing about the like emergency fund. And I've done some of the Dave Ramsey curriculum. We actually had that as a course at my high school growing up. So like I was exposed to that pretty early on. Just recently got one of his books, The Total Money Makeover. Been going through that. He's real big on setting up emergency funds like from the get-go, so that you're not having to borrow just to get through life circumstances. I think he calls it Murphy or something like that. So same way with time. I almost feel like I try to schedule pretty like heavily where I like activity. That's a personality thing for me. I like to be active. I like to be on the go and driven. And so I do think that's an advantage for me because like how we were talking about, some people don't need as much like sleep as other people need. I do feel like I maybe don't need as much like time just kind of off on my own recharging as some other people would need. And I think that's a temperament or personality sort of thing. So with that, I think I can take a lot on besides just the work day. I mean, I feel like I can go, I can have a dinner, I can do a podcast, we can, do whatever we got to do. And we're going to go while the day's on. We're going to engage, get stuff done. So for me, I do think what I'm getting to here is I think I do try to keep kind of a reserve, and I'm not always like intentional about this. I just think it kind of happens. I do try to keep maybe a day or two a week where I don't really have much going on, and I've got time that's for rest, and I try to be intentional about that. I try to get home early enough that I can go to bed on time so I can wake up early and do the things I got to do. I try to have one day where I really don't have much planned, but then outside of that, I do try to keep like some pockets of time available so that if something comes up, if somebody needs to meet and talk, if there's an emergency that happens, like I can make it. I can do that. I can fit it in. I don't want to be so planned out that I don't have any room to move the schedule around. So that's part of the scheduling and prioritizing. And here's an overarching word I wrote down for resources is discipline, the discipline to do it on a regular basis, because without this, I mean, I can have priorities, but if I don't have the discipline to act on them, then it doesn't really matter that I figured out what my priorities are, because they're just some idea and I'm still just kind of going with whatever happens. Here's something else on time. We talk about like work time, sleep time. I did the math, and if somebody worked a 40-hour work week and they slept 8 hours a night, it's 56 hours of sleep, 40 hours of work. That leaves you at 96 hours taken. There's 168 hours in a week, which leaves 72 hours available to do everything else.
It's huge.
It's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah, it kind of is like convicting to me when I think about it, because I think it's a lot of time.
That's a lot of time.
Is wasted.
Yeah.
And, it's not all waste, because, I mean, you got to factor in getting ready. You got to factor in, eating. Commute times. I mean, I live 10 minutes outside of town, so that's at least 20, usually more like 40, because I make a couple trips a day. So that's a lot of time in the truck. And hey, you can use that. You can listen to a podcast. You can get some news. I mean, there's you can make a phone call. There's stuff you can do. There's ways you can kind of maximize your time. And maybe we could get into that on another episode, ways they call it hacks to get more out of your time, I guess. But, 72 hours of kind of additional time a week where you're not sleeping and you're not working, that's a lot of time to utilize.
Yeah. And you have to decide what you're going to do with that.
Exactly.
Or else.
And if you don't go in with a plan, you're going to end up getting pummeled.
Yes.
By the time it'll just get away from you. So being intentional about it, disciplined about it, that's important. Prioritizing is important. Energy is the same way for me. Prioritizing what gets energy. I mean, I would almost like link that up with time. And I suppose that's probably because of the way I like engage. Like, I think when I show up, I try to show up. And so if I'm going to give my time to something, it's going to be getting my energy too. Like, there's almost, at least for me, you're not really going to get one without also getting the other. I mean, and there may be some exceptions, like if we're like hanging out watching a movie or something, I might space out for part of the movie and just like relax and chill out and like let my mind rest. But like, yeah, usually if you're getting my time, you're getting my energy too. And so those go together, the prioritizing and the conserving of it. Those are tied. Balancing and inputting are two other words I wrote down with energy. Balancing out, just being aware, like, I got to rest, knowing that my health is going to suffer, my work quality is going to suffer, like everything's going to get worse if I'm just totally drained and out of energy. So I want to live in a place of balance where I'm engaged, but I've also got a reserve of energy where I can keep on going with what I need to do. And then input what it takes to continue having energy. I need to input the time to rest. I need to input the food I need. I need to input whatever it is that gives me energy. And that can be a variety of things. And then money to kind of close out the resources. I kind of broke this into two areas. I said there's like, I look at it like there's the parts of money that are future focused, and then there are parts of money that are management focused. And so the future focus, I mean, just to sum that up, is investing. You talked about like Roth IRAs, retirement accounts. I mean, I'm pretty young, I'm 25, but I look at that like a great opportunity for investment because compound interest is awesome. Huge. I mean, 40 years from now, compound interest is going to be awesome. Like potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars per year growth. So it's like, I wish I had the capacity to start earlier on. And I was telling you before we started, like, I feel like a lot of the financial decisions I've made up to this point have really been about posturing so that I can spend the next period of time putting a lot of money into investments, and then also, living a well-managed, funded life now where I'm able to, provide for my family, which will be coming together in May 15th of this year. So yeah, there's definitely a future focus. Like, I love that you brought up the legacy bucket, thinking beyond even my life. I mean, I think that's just so valuable and such a great way to think, is not just me, not just enough to get through my lifetime, but like leaving an inheritance, leaving, a legacy when it comes to resources for those that follow after me. I'm all about seeing what we can do for that, not hoarding either though. And maybe that would be a good thing to identify too. I mean, I'm a pastor and I believe there is an investment that is eternal in nature. I talk about that every Sunday when we give, but I believe there are charitable, some would call it charity. I would call it an offering to the Lord. And I think there's an eternal investment on that. I believe you get benefit now and benefit later. And so I think that's an important part of that future look too, is it is worthwhile to invest in physical future, but also in eternal future. And then the management aspect, I try to keep a budget, and I'm not as disciplined with that as I should be. That's something that even like the Dave Ramsey thing that we've got now, part of the goal with that is to develop a budget that is really effective for Taylor and I, like when we're going to get married. And I think that'll be a great tool to help us kind of start off life together financially. And then beyond the budget, like I don't know, I'm kind of in some ways frugal. I like to believe that I'm frugal anyways. And that some of that comes as a result of environments and different times in life. Like I was running pretty tight in college. I took out a couple of loans. I went to 2 schools at the same time and tried to pay cash as much as I could for both, and then also, pay for rent and food and gas money and all those things that you need to pay for. And so there's a period of 3 years that was pretty tight, and I really learned to value every dollar and how to live without the extras of life. And so I'm not as tight about some of that as I used to be. I'm grateful that Taylor's kind of loosened me up and shown me how to enjoy a little bit more. It is a balance thing, but I definitely feel like I've got that frugality at play. It's ever kind of present in my mind, but it's kind of where I'm at. Try to save, try to conserve. I like to think I'm conservative when it comes to finances, but I don't have like the great piece of wisdom. If anything, I would just say give, make it so that your money isn't your God. The way you do that is by giving it away. Keeps it in perspective.
Well, I'm done.
I know, you're toast.
So you should hit the outro and wrap us if you would, and let's reconvene on a future episode.
Yeah, we'll do that. Hey, we got through all 4.
Yes.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Took some time.
Did it.
Yeah. Viewers, don't be afraid to throw that on double time and just listen fast. But
try to talk faster next time.
If it's valuable, we'll keep doing it. So
adios.
We have been Unfiltered, episode 3. See you later.